Let me tell you about Maya Stardust. Yes, that's her real name. And no, her parents weren't hippies. They were dead. Had been for about 15 years, ever since their research vessel got a little too close to a black hole. Maya, however, was very much alive and currently the most reluctant celebrity aboard Nebula Prime, a research station floating somewhere in the ass end of the Andromeda Galaxy. Picture this, a 23-year-old human woman with brown hair that refused to cooperate with alien hair products, sitting in what could generously be called a medical examination room but looked more like a veterinary clinic. The examining table was too high, the lights were too bright, and the beings poking at her with various instruments were, well, let's just say they weren't human. Commander Zephyr, the station's military leader, stood at attention near the door. He looked like someone had crossed a seahorse with a filing cabinet and given it anxiety issues. His uniform was always perfectly pressed, his posture rigid enough to serve as a coat rack, and his voice carried the kind of authority that suggested he'd practiced his commanding tone in front of a mirror. Subject Maya requires her weekly biological assessment, Zephyr announced, as if Maya couldn't hear him or wasn't sitting right there looking thoroughly unimpressed. Oh, Subject Maya does she? Maya said, swinging her legs from the examination table. Well, Subject Maya would like to know why Subject Maya can't go 5 minutes without someone wanting to stick a probe somewhere uncomfortable. Dr. Bubbles bounced into the room with the enthusiasm of a golden retriever who'd just discovered tennis balls. He was roughly spherical, covered in what appeared to be purple fur, and had approximately 17 eyes scattered across his face like a biological slot machine. His voice bubbled, which explained the name, though Maya suspected his real name was something unpronounceable involving throat clicks and harmonic frequencies. Maya, 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 Dr. Bubbles chirped, his eyes blinking in sequence like Christmas lights. Today we measure your bone density and your reflexes, and maybe we can finally figure out why you keep producing that strange chemical when you're annoyed. That's called adrenaline, Doc, Maya said dryly. It's what keeps me from strangling you with my bare hands when you wake me up at dark 30 for your little experiments. In the corner, Grunt grunted. Grunt was the station's maintenance chief, and his contribution to most conversations was exactly what you'd expect from someone named Grunt. He looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a boulder, and Maya was pretty sure he'd adopted her as some kind of pet project. He brought her weird alien snacks and fixed things in her quarters without being asked, which was sweet in a wordless, grunting sort of way. Maya had been living this life for 15 years, ever since her parents' ship was recovered with one very small, very scared survivor aboard. The Galactic Research Consortium had taken her in, partly out of curiosity and partly because nobody else knew what to do with a human child. Humans were rare out here in the deep galaxy, and Maya was the only one most of these aliens had ever seen. They treated her well enough, in the way you might treat an interesting houseplant. They made sure she had food, shelter, entertainment, and regular checkups to make sure she wasn't dying of some exotic space disease. In return, Maya provided them with endless fascination as they documented every aspect of human biology, psychology, and behavior. It was, she had to admit, a pretty sweet deal. She had a comfortable life, interesting company, and front row seats to some of the galaxy's most cutting-edge research. The only downside was the constant feeling that she was living in a cosmic zoo exhibit. "Can we please get this over with?" Maya asked, settling back on the examination table. "Janet's showing a classic Earth movie marathon tonight, and I'd rather not miss Casablanca because you needed to count my teeth again." 3 weeks later, Dr. Bubbles was practically vibrating with excitement, which was saying something for a being who normally existed in a state of barely contained enthusiasm. Maya had never seen him this worked up, not since he'd discovered that human hair kept growing after death and spent 2 days trying to figure out if she was technically a zombie. "Maya, my dear test subject, friend, I have wonderful news." Dr. Bubbles bounced around his laboratory like a purple ping-pong ball. "I'm finally ready to complete my comprehensive genetic analysis. This will be the cornerstone of my doctoral thesis, Comparative Xenobiology, a study of human genetic markers and their implications for galactic biodiversity." Maya raised an eyebrow from her position on what she'd dubbed the torture table. "Doc, you've been analyzing my DNA for 15 years. What's left to discover? Whether I'm secretly part toaster?" "Ah, but this is different." Dr. Bubbles waved several appendages excitedly. "I've gained access to the new quantum genetic sequencer. It can identify genetic markers down to the subatomic level. We'll finally have a complete picture of your genetic heritage." Janet, the station's AI, materialized as a hologram near the lab's main console. She appeared as a middle-aged woman with the expression of someone who'd been dealing with idiots for centuries and was getting really tired of it. "Oh joy," Janet said in a voice dripping with digital sarcasm. "Another excuse for Dr. Bubbles to take blood samples. Maya, dear, you might want to invest in iron supplements at this rate." Maya snorted. "At least someone around here gets it." "Janet, remind me why I agreed to this." "Because, and I quote from your conversation 3 days ago, fine, whatever. Just let me know if I'm dying of space cancer or something," Janet replied. "Your enthusiasm was truly inspiring." Commander Zephyr entered the lab with his usual military precision, followed by Grunt, who was carrying what appeared to be a very large sandwich and grunting contentedly to himself. "Dr. Bubbles," Zephyr said formally, "the Research Council is very interested in your findings. Human genetics remain largely mysterious to us, and any insights could prove valuable for future human-alien relations." "Assuming we ever meet any other humans," Maya muttered. "I'm starting to think I'm the last one in this galaxy." Dr. Bubbles had already begun the testing process, his various instruments humming and beeping with scientific purpose. Maya watched the readouts on the screens around her, most of which meant absolutely nothing to her but seemed to be making Dr. Bubbles increasingly excited. "Fascinating," he bubbled. "Maya, your genetic structure is far more complex than we initially believed. There are sequences here that don't match any of our existing human databases." "Maybe because your human databases consist of that one girl we found 15 years ago," Maya pointed out. "I'm literally your only data point." Janet's hologram flickered as she accessed the station's research networks. "Actually, Maya, there are several human genetic samples in the Galactic archives, mostly from archaeological sites and ancient battlefields. Dr. Bubbles is comparing your DNA to those samples." "Ancient battlefields?" Maya sat up straighter. "What kind of ancient battlefields?" Dr. Bubbles paused in his excited bouncing, several of his eyes focusing on the readout screens while others continued to blink randomly. "Well, humans did have quite a colorful history in this galaxy before your species mysteriously vanished from the outer systems about 300 years ago." "Define colorful," Maya said, though she wasn't entirely sure she wanted to know the answer. Commander Zephyr shifted uncomfortably. "Perhaps we should focus on the current genetic analysis rather than dwelling on ancient history." "Oh no," Maya said, crossing her arms. "Now, I definitely want to know. What aren't you telling me about humans?" Janet's expression suggested she was enjoying the discomfort this conversation was causing. Humans were militarily significant in several historical conflicts. Very effective warriors, from what the records indicate. "Warriors?" Maya laughed. "Have you met me? I get winded climbing the stairs to the observation deck." Dr. Bubbles made a series of rapid clicking sounds that Maya had learned meant he was either very excited or very worried. Given the way his eyes were now all focusing on the same screen, she suspected it was the latter. "Dr. Bubbles?" Commander Zephyr stepped closer to the console. "What is it?" "These genetic markers," Dr. Bubbles said slowly, his usual enthusiasm replaced by something that sounded suspiciously like concern. "They're not matching the standard human samples." "Meaning what, exactly?" Maya asked. Dr. Bubbles turned to look at her, all 17 of his eyes now focused on her face. "Meaning your genetic profile matches something else entirely. Something the Galactic archives have classified as, well, as extremely dangerous. Janet's hologram flickered again. Oh my. Dr. Bubbles, you might want to double-check those results. I already have, Dr. Bubbles said quietly. 3 times. Maya felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the lab's air conditioning. Dangerous how? But before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station, and Janet's hologram turned bright red. Incoming priority transmission from Galactic Command, Janet announced. All senior staff to the command center immediately. The command center looked like Mission Control had a baby with a disco ball and raised it on a steady diet of anxiety and flashing warning lights. Maya had only been in here a handful of times, usually when something had gone catastrophically wrong with the station's life support systems or when visiting dignitaries needed to be impressed by their pet human. Today felt different. Today felt like the kind of different that ended with people getting shot out of airlocks. Commander Zephyr stood at the main console, his seahorse filing cabinet form more rigid than usual. Dr. Bubbles had positioned himself near the genetic analysis station, all 17 eyes darting between Maya and the incoming transmission. Grunt sat in the corner, still working on his sandwich, apparently unbothered by the fact that the universe might be ending. Janet materialized in the center of the room, her holographic form flickering with what Maya had learned to recognize as digital stress. Incoming transmission from Admiral Krex Tar of the Galactic Defense Force, Janet announced. Priority Alpha classification. The main screen lit up with the image of what could only be described as a very angry lobster wearing military decorations. Admiral Krex Tar had the kind of face that suggested he'd been personally offended by the existence of everything in the universe and was working on a solution. Commander Zephyr, Admiral Krex Tar's voice sounded like gravel being processed through a food processor. I understand you have a human aboard your station. Yes, sir, Zephyr replied. Maya Stardust. She's been with us for 15 years, part of our ongoing xenobiology research program. 15 years, the Admiral repeated slowly. And in all that time, it never occurred to any of you to run a comprehensive genetic analysis? Maya stepped forward. Excuse me, Admiral Lobster, but I'm standing right here. Want to tell me what's got everyone's tentacles in a twist? The Admiral's eye stalk swiveled to focus on her, and Maya immediately regretted opening her mouth. Those were not the eyes of someone who appreciated sarcasm. You, Admiral Krex Tar said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow sounded more terrifying than shouting, are a destroyer. A what now? Maya blinked. I'm sorry, I think there's been some mistake. I can barely destroy a bag of chips without making a mess. Dr. Bubbles made a series of rapid clicking sounds. Admiral, surely there's been an error. Maya is perfectly harmless. She spends most of her time reading Earth literature and complaining about the quality of alien coffee. Dr. Bubbles. The Admiral continued, I'm transmitting the classified files now. 300 years ago, a group of humans calling themselves the Destroyer Bloodline nearly brought the entire galaxy to its knees. They were warriors unlike anything we'd ever encountered. They were ruthless, cunning, and absolutely without mercy. Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. And you think I'm related to these people? I don't think anything, Admiral Krex Tar replied. The genetic markers don't lie. You carry the complete destroyer genetic signature. Every single marker. Janet's hologram flickered as she processed the incoming data. Oh dear. Maya, according to these files, the Destroyer Bloodline was responsible for the siege of Vega 7, the massacre at the Rings of Saturn, and something called the incident at the Horsehead Nebula that's still classified at the highest levels. The Horsehead Nebula incident resulted in the complete evacuation of 17 star systems, Admiral Krex Tar added helpfully. We're still not allowed to go back there. Maya stared at the screen. You're telling me that my ancestors were space barbarians who terrorized the galaxy? space barbarians with a 97% victory rate against superior forces, the Admiral corrected. Maya Stardust, by the authority vested in me by the Galactic Defense Force, you are hereby classified as a Class A threat to galactic security. Class A. Maya's voice pitched higher. What does that even mean? Commander Zephyr answered quietly. It means they're going to try to kill you. The transmission screen suddenly filled with new faces as various alien commanders and officials joined the call. Maya recognized some of the species' Rigelian Centaurians, a few others she'd seen in the station's diplomatic logs. The human must be eliminated, declared a Rigelian general who looked like a praying mantis wearing military dress blues. We cannot allow another destroyer to reach maturity. Reach maturity? Maya laughed, though it sounded a bit hysterical even to her. I'm 23. I'm already mature. I pay my own taxes. Well, I would if I had any income, but that's beside the point. The destroyer Bloodline manifests their abilities during times of extreme stress, Admiral Krextar explained. Until now, you've lived a comfortable, protected life. You've never been pushed to your limits. Dr. Bubbles stepped protectively in front of Maya. Admiral, with all due respect, Maya has been with us for 15 years. She's family. She's never shown any signs of violence or aggression. She called the Centaurian ambassador a pompous space turkey last month, Commander Zephyr pointed out. He was being a pompous space turkey, Maya protested. Furthermore, the Admiral continued as if she hadn't spoken. We've detected multiple ships already en route to your position. Bounty hunters, mercenaries, and at least 3 different military factions. Word has gotten out about the destroyer on Nebula Prime. Janet's hologram turned an alarming shade of red. Confirmed. I'm detecting 17 ships on approach vectors. ETA approximately 6 hours. Maya sank into the nearest chair, which unfortunately was designed for someone with a completely different anatomy and left her feeling like she was sitting in a very uncomfortable bowl. So let me get this straight, she said slowly. I've spent 15 years being the galaxy's most boring human, and now suddenly I'm public enemy #1 because of something my great-great-great-grandmother might have done? Genetics don't lie, Admiral Krextar replied, and neither does history. The destroyer Bloodline vanished 300 years ago, but the galaxy never forgot what they were capable of. Grunt stood up, finished with his sandwich, and walked over to Maya. He grunted once, softly, and patted her shoulder with surprising gentleness. Thanks, Grunt, Maya said. At least someone around here still thinks I'm harmless. She looked around the room at her alien family, the only family she'd ever known, and saw something in their eyes that she'd never seen before. Breeze fear. They were afraid of her. 6 hours turned out to be an optimistic estimate. Janet's sensors detected the first wave of bounty hunters dropping out of hyperspace just 4 hours after Admiral Krextar's delightful little conference call. Maya spent those 4 hours in her quarters, staring at her reflection in the mirror and trying to see whatever it was that had the entire galaxy terrified. She looked exactly the same as she had that morning, brown hair that refused to behave, brown eyes that were currently rimmed with the kind of dark circles that came from having an existential crisis, and a face that she'd always thought looked more tired than terrifying. She certainly didn't look like someone whose ancestors had apparently traumatized 17 star systems. A soft chime indicated someone was at her door. Come in, she called, not bothering to turn around. Dr. Bubbles bounced in, his usual enthusiasm dampened to something more like concerned fidgeting. Maya, I wanted to check on you. How are you feeling? Oh, you know, Maya said, finally turning away from the mirror. Just peachy. Found out I'm apparently a genetic weapon of mass destruction. There are bounty hunters coming to kill me, and my family is afraid I'm going to snap and murder everyone. How's your day going? Maya, Dr. Bubbles said gently, we're not afraid of you. We're afraid for you. Same difference, Maya muttered. Either way, everyone's walking on eggshells around me like I'm going to turn into some kind of berserker warrior at any moment. The station shuddered slightly, and Janet's voice echoed through the corridors. First contact with hostile vessels. All personnel to secure positions. Maya stood up. Well, I guess it's time to find out whether I'm the galaxy's most feared warrior, or just really good at disappointing people. They made their way to the command center, where Commander Zephyr was coordinating defensive positions with the kind of military efficiency that suggested he'd been hoping for a nice, quiet research assignment, and was regretting his career choices. Status report, Maya said as she entered. Zephyr turned to her, and Maya noticed that his usual rigid posture had relaxed slightly. Combat apparently was more comfortable for him than the uncertainty of the past few hours. 3 ships have taken positions around the station, he reported. They're demanding we surrender you immediately, or they'll begin boarding actions. What kind of ships? Maya asked. Janet materialized nearby. 1 Korthax battlecruiser, 1 Regellian fast attack vessel, and something that appears to be held together with duct tape and good intentions. I believe that last one belongs to independent bounty hunters. Maya walked over to the main communications console. Can you patch me through to them? Maya, Dr. Bubbles protested. What are you doing? Something my ancestors apparently never tried, Maya said. Talking. Janet established the connection, and the main screen split into 3 sections showing the commanders of the attacking vessels. The Korthax looked like a very angry bear that had been through a blender. The Regellian resembled a praying mantis with serious anger management issues, and the bounty hunter captain appeared to be some kind of lizard wearing what might charitably be called clothing. Attention hostile vessels, Maya said, stepping into view of the camera. This is Maya Stardust. I understand you're here to kill me. The Korthax captain snarled. Surrender now, destroyer, and we will make your death quick. Counteroffer, Maya replied. How about you leave my family alone and I don't have to demonstrate exactly why my bloodline has you all so terrified? The bounty hunter captain laughed, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. You're just a soft research station pet. You've never even seen real combat. Maya felt something shift inside her, like a door opening that had been locked for 23 years. The constant worry, the fear in her family's eyes, the casual dismissal from these thugs who wanted to murder her for the crime of existing it all crystallized into something sharp and focused. You know what? Maya said, her voice dropping to a conversational tone that somehow sounded more dangerous than shouting. You're absolutely right. I have been a pet. I've been polite, accommodating, and grateful for 15 years. I've said please and thank you. I've submitted to endless medical tests. And I've never once complained about the fact that every single person I meet treats me like a fascinating zoo exhibit. She stepped closer to the camera. But here's the thing about keeping a predator as a pet, Maya continued. Eventually you forget that's what it is. The Regellian captain made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Threats from a human child. How amusing. Maya turned to Janet. How many people are on those ships? The Korthax vessel has a crew of 47, the Regellian ship has 23, and the bounty hunter ship has, let's call it 6.5. 6.5? One of them appears to be missing several important appendages. Maya nodded thoughtfully. And they're all here to kill me. That does appear to be their intention, Janet confirmed. Well then, Maya said, turning back to the communications screen. I guess we'd better get started. The change that came over Maya wasn't dramatic. There was no glowing, no transformation, no sudden burst of superhuman strength. She simply straightened up. Her shoulders squared, her spine stiffened, and her eyes took on the kind of focus that suggested she was seeing not just the immediate problem, but 17 different solutions to it. For the first time in 15 years, Maya Stardust stopped trying to be small. Janet, she said, her voice calm and professional, what are the defensive capabilities of this station? Minimal, Janet replied. We're a research facility, not a military installation. We have basic shields and exactly 2 plasma cannon turrets that haven't been tested in over a decade. What about manufacturing capabilities? Extensive. We have fabrication units, 3D molecular printers, and a fully stocked engineering bay. Maya smiled, and Commander Zephyr later swore it was the most terrifying expression he'd ever seen on a sentient being's face. Perfect, Maya said. How long until they start boarding? Approximately 30 minutes, Zephyr reported. Plenty of time, Maya said. She turned to address her family. Dr. Bubbles, I need you to synthesize about 50 gallons of that cleaning solvent you use in the lab, the one that dissolves organic matter. Commander Zephyr, I need deck plans for all 3 of those ships. Grunt, how are you with mechanical sabotage? Grunt grunted approvingly and cracked his knuckles, a sound like breaking concrete. Janet, can you hack their communications systems? Child's play, Janet said with digital smugness. Excellent. Maya clapped her hands together. Gentlemen, you came here expecting to kill one scared little human. Instead, you're about to get a master class in why evolution made us the galaxy's premier persistence predators. She looked at the communication screen, where the 3 ship captains were watching with expressions ranging from confusion to growing alarm. Oh, and boys, Maya added sweetly, you might want to call for backup. You're going to need it. What followed could only be described as the most educational 30 minutes in Nebula Prime's history. Maya moved through the station like someone who had suddenly remembered she was the apex predator in this particular ecosystem, and everyone else was just trying to keep up. Janet, patch me into their ship's environmental systems, Maya called out as she worked at a fabrication unit, her hands moving with a precision that suggested she'd been suppressing 15 years of engineering instincts. Maya, Dr. Bubbles said, bouncing anxiously nearby, what exactly are you making? Psychological warfare, Maya replied, not looking up from her work. Humans are really good at psychological warfare. We invented horror movies as entertainment. The first sign that something had changed came when the lights on all 3 attacking ships began flickering in a pattern that, while seemingly random, created an effect disturbingly similar to a human heartbeat. The second sign was when their ship-to-ship communications started playing what sounded like whispers in languages none of them recognized. What is she doing to our systems? The Korthax captain snarled, his voice now carrying a note of uncertainty. Maya looked up at the communications screen with the expression of someone who was just getting started. Oh, that's nothing. Janet, show them the surprise we prepared in their cargo bays. The screen switched to internal ship cameras, revealing that somehow, during the past 20 minutes, every cargo bay on all 3 ships had been filled with what appeared to be anatomically correct human skeletons arranged in various threatening poses. How did you, the bounty hunter captain, begin? 3D molecular printers and a really good database of human anatomy, Maya said cheerfully. Did you know that human skeletons are universally terrifying to most alien species? Something about the structure triggers a deep evolutionary fear response. It's fascinating from an anthropological perspective. Commander Zephyr was staring at her with an expression of professional admiration. Maya, how did you know about their cargo bay layouts? I asked Janet to show me the ship schematics and then I cross-referenced them with standard cargo bay configurations from the Galactic Merchant Marine Handbook, Maya replied. As if this were the most obvious thing in the world. Honestly, the amount of useful information you can find in technical manuals is amazing. The Rigelian captain made a series of rapid clicking sounds that Janet helpfully translated as extremely creative profanity. Now, Maya said. There's no need for that kind of language. We're all professionals here. Noga. She turned back to her work, and within minutes had produced what looked like a collection of small, innocuous metal spheres. "Dr. Bubbles, are those cleaning solvent dispensers ready?" "Yes, but Maya, I still don't understand what you're planning to." The station shuddered as the first boarding pod attached to the outer hull. "Showtime," Maya said. She grabbed a handful of the metal spheres and headed for the airlock. "Janet, seal all blast doors behind me. Nobody follows me out there." "Maya, wait," Dr. Bubbles called. "You can't face armed boarding parties alone." Maya paused at the airlock door and turned back to her family with a smile that was equal parts affectionate and absolutely terrifying. "Doc," she said gently, "I'm not facing them alone. I'm facing them as a human." What happened next would be talked about in military academies for the next century. Maya Stardust, armed with nothing but cleaning supplies, a handful of homemade gadgets, and 300 years of suppressed human tactical instincts, proceeded to systematically dismantle 3 separate boarding parties. She didn't fight them head-on. That would have been stupid, and humans didn't become the galaxy's most feared warriors by being stupid. Instead, she turned the station itself into a weapon. The first boarding party found themselves trapped in a section of corridor where the artificial gravity kept shifting directions every 30 seconds. The second group discovered that all the doors had been reprogrammed to open and close in a pattern that created a maze with no exit. The third team made it exactly 6 steps into the station before the lights went out, and Maya's voice began echoing from the walls, reciting what sounded like poetry but was actually a detailed description of human digestive processes. "This is taking too long," Maya announced over the comm system after 20 minutes of watching trained soldiers stumble around like confused tourists. "Let's speed things up." She activated the metal spheres she'd created, and suddenly every corridor in the boarding sections was filled with a fine mist that smelled like sulfur and rotten eggs, but was otherwise harmless. Ascension boarding parties, Maya's voice echoed through their helmet comms. "You now have approximately 10 minutes before that gas becomes lethal. I'd suggest retreating to your ships." It was, of course, a complete bluff. The gas was nothing more than Dr. Bubbles' cleaning solvent mixed with a harmless but foul-smelling compound Maya had synthesized from the station's waste recycling system. But the boarding parties didn't know that. What they knew was that they were trapped in a maze, in the dark, breathing something that smelled like death, while a voice that sounded increasingly unhinged described the various ways human stomach acid could dissolve organic matter. They retreated. All 3 boarding parties, trained military personnel and hardened bounty hunters, retreated in complete panic from one human woman with a chemistry set and a talent for psychological manipulation. "Well," Maya said, settling back into the command center as Janet sealed the external airlocks, "that was educational." She looked around the room at her alien family, all of whom were staring at her with expressions of awe, terror, and what might have been pride. "Any questions?" No. Commander Zephyr cleared his throat. "Maya, how did you know they would retreat?" Maya shrugged. "I didn't. But humans are really good at bluffing. It's one of our species' most underrated survival traits." On the communications screen, the 3 ship captains were having what appeared to be a very heated argument. The Korthax captain was gesturing wildly, the Regellian was clicking rapidly, and the bounty hunter captain seemed to be seriously reconsidering his career choices. "They're calling for reinforcements," Janet reported. "I'm detecting at least 12 more ships en route." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "Good. I was wondering if I'd have to go looking for them." Dr. Bubbles made a strangled bubbling sound. "Maya, there will be hundreds of them." "I know," Maya said. "Isn't it exciting?" She stood up and stretched, looking more relaxed than she had in hours. "Janet, patch me through to all incoming ships." The communications array lit up with incoming connections as Maya's image was broadcast to every vessel in the approaching fleet. Captains, admirals, bounty hunters, and mercenaries all found themselves staring at a young human woman who looked like she was having the time of her life. "Good evening, gentlemen," Maya said pleasantly. "I'm Maya Stardust, and I understand you're all here to kill me. I'd like to make you a counteroffer." She leaned forward slightly, and her smile took on an edge that made several alien commanders involuntarily step back from their screens. "How about you all turn around and go home, and I won't have to show you why my ancestors made this galaxy so nervous?" The response was immediate and unanimous laughter. Maya's smile widened. "I was hoping you'd say that." 6 months later, Maya was sitting in the command center of Nebula Prime, her feet up on the main console, reading a report from the Galactic Defense Force about the incident at Research Station Nebula Prime. While sipping coffee that didn't taste like recycled engine coolant for the first time in 15 years. The report made for interesting reading. Phrases like unprecedented tactical innovation, strategic psychological manipulation, and recommend immediate policy review regarding human threat assessment appeared frequently. Her personal favorite was the section that described her tactics as unconventional to the point of incomprehensibility. Maya, Dr. Bubbles bounced into the command center, his usual enthusiasm now tinged with what she'd learned to recognize as professional respect. "The Regellian Science Academy wants to interview you about your innovative approach to conflict resolution." "Tell them I'm busy," Maya said without looking up from the report. "I'm reading about how I apparently traumatized an entire battle fleet using nothing but cleaning supplies and creative lighting." Janet materialized nearby, her holographic form displaying what appeared to be smugness. "The final casualty report came in this morning. 0 deaths, 47 cases of what military psychologists are calling acute stress-induced career reassessment, and 1 Corthax admiral who has reportedly taken up meditation." Maya grinned. "I'm particularly proud of the admiral. That was some quality psychological work." Commander Zephyr entered the command center, his usual rigid posture now tempered with something that looked suspiciously like casual comfort. Over the past 6 months, Maya had noticed that her alien family had stopped walking on eggshells around her and started treating her like what she'd always been, family. "Maya, we've received another request for your services," Zephyr announced. "The Centaurian Trade Federation is having some difficulties with pirates in the Outer Rim." "What kind of difficulties?" Maya asked, finally looking up from her report. "The traditional kind. Ships being raided, cargo stolen, crews held for ransom. Standard piracy protocols." Maya set down her coffee and stretched. "How many pirates are we talking about?" "Approximately 200 ships operating in coordinated fleets." "Sounds fun," Maya said. "What's the pay?" "They're offering to designate Nebula Prime as a diplomatic research station with full immunity and funding for the next 50 years. Maya looked around the command center at her family, Dr. Bubbles bouncing with barely contained scientific enthusiasm, Commander Zephyr trying to look disapproving while clearly hoping she'd accept, the Grunt sitting in his corner working on what appeared to be a new sandwich and grunting approvingly, and Janet displaying a holographic expression that suggested she was looking forward to the challenge. "Counteroffer," Maya said. 60 years, full funding, and they throw in a decent coffee machine." "Done," Zephyr said immediately. Maya stood up and began pacing, her mind already working through the logistical challenges of dealing with 200 pirate ships. It was, she had to admit, a much more interesting problem than the usual research station difficulties. "Janet, what do we know about pirate psychology?" "Extensive databases available," Janet replied. "Shall I compile a comprehensive analysis?" "Please." "And Dr. Bubbles, I'm going to need about 300 gallons of that solvent, plus whatever you can synthesize that smells absolutely horrific but won't actually kill anyone." Dr. Bubbles practically vibrated with excitement. "Maya, what are you planning?" "The same thing I always plan, Doc," Maya said with a grin that had become legendary across 17 star systems. "I'm going to remind everyone why humans don't play fair." 3 days later, the Centaurian Trade Federation received a message from the pirate fleets operating in their territory. It was brief, to the point, and caused several admirals to request immediate transfers to desk jobs. The message simply read, "We quit. Signed, everyone." Attached to the message was a video file showing 200 pirate captains, all of whom appeared to have developed a severe case of what psychologists were now calling Stardust syndrome, a condition characterized by obsessive checking of environmental systems, jumpiness around cleaning supplies, and an overwhelming desire to pursue legitimate employment. Maya, meanwhile, was back on Nebula Prime, feet up on her console, reading another report. This one was from the Galactic Psychiatric Association about the growing number of former criminals seeking therapy after encounters with unconventional human psychological warfare techniques. Maya. Commander Zephyr said, entering the command center with what had become his daily briefing folder. "We've received 17 more requests for your services this week. The Andromedans want help with a rebel faction. The Rigelians are having trouble with tax evaders. And apparently there's a cult in the Horsehead Nebula that thinks they can summon ancient demons." "Tax evaders?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "That's new." "They're offering hazard pay," Zephyr added helpfully. Maya considered this. "What kind of hazard pay?" "They're willing to upgrade Janet's processing cores and give us access to their entire digital entertainment library." Janet's hologram perked up noticeably. "Maya, dear, did I mention that the Rigelian Entertainment Library includes the complete works of 17 different civilizations, including several comedy series that I believe you would find amusing?" "You know what, Janet? I think the galaxy's tax evaders are about to discover why humans invented the phrase death and taxes." Dr. Bubbles bounced into the room carrying what appeared to be a very official-looking document. "Maya, I've just received confirmation from the Galactic Academic Council. My thesis on human psychological warfare, a xenobiological analysis, has been accepted for publication. They're calling it groundbreaking and deeply terrifying." "Congratulations, Doc," Maya said. "Just remember to mention in the acknowledgments that your test subject prefers coffee to adrenaline as a motivational tool." Grunt appeared in the doorway and grunted twice, which Maya had learned meant either lunch is ready or there are more ships approaching. Given that it was barely 10 in the morning, she suspected the latter. "Janet, what's coming our way this time?" "One diplomatic vessel from the Galactic Council," Janet reported. "Ambassador-class ship. Minimal weapons, maximum bureaucracy." "Diplomats," Maya sighed. "My least favorite kind of problem." The main screen lit up with the image of what appeared to be a very nervous jellyfish wearing formal diplomatic attire. Ambassador Glurbel had the kind of translucent, quivering appearance that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. "Memes." Stardust, Ambassador Glurbel began, his voice carrying the tone of someone delivering bad news. "The Galactic Council has asked me to inform you that your recent activities have caused some concern among the member species." "What kind of concern?" Maya asked, settling back in her chair with the expression of someone who was about to enjoy herself. "Well, the sudden career changes among the criminal element have caused a significant shortage of pirates, smugglers, and general ne'er-do-wells. Several sectors are reporting that their crime rates have dropped to historically low levels." Maya blinked. "And this is a problem because the Galactic Rehabilitation Services are severely understaffed to handle the sudden influx of former criminals seeking legitimate employment and psychological counseling. Additionally, several military academies are requesting you guest lecture on advanced psychological tactics, and frankly, we're not sure the galaxy is ready for more humans trained in your methods." Dr. Bubbles bounced excitedly. "Maya, you're revolutionizing galactic crime prevention." "I'm really not trying to," Maya protested. "I just want people to stop shooting at my family." Ambassador Glurbel's jellyfish form quivered more intensely. "MS. Stardust, The Council would like to offer you an official position as a Galactic Conflict Resolution Specialist. What does that involve? Essentially, we would pay you to continue doing exactly what you're already doing, but with official backing and a very impressive title. Maya looked around the command center at her family. Dr. Bubbles was practically bouncing off the ceiling with excitement. Commander Zephyr was trying to look stern while obviously being pleased. Grunt had given her a thumbs up, and Janet was displaying what appeared to be a holographic smile. What's the pay? Maya asked. Full diplomatic immunity, unlimited research funding for Nebula Prime, and your choice of any 3 planets in the Outer Rim as personal territory. Maya considered this. Make it 4 planets and throw in a really good espresso machine and you've got a deal. Done, Ambassador Glurbel said immediately, apparently relieved that the negotiation hadn't involved any psychological warfare. After the transmission ended, Maya leaned back in her chair and looked around at her family, the people who had raised her and loved her and never once made her feel like the monster the galaxy had expected her to be. So, she said finally, I guess I'm officially the galaxy's problem solver now. You always were, Dr. Bubbles said warmly. We just made it official. Janet's hologram flickered with what might have been affection. Congratulations, Maya. You've managed to become the most feared and respected human in the galaxy without actually hurting anyone. Well, Maya said thoughtfully, except for that one admiral's pride. But I think he's better off with the meditation thing. She stood up and stretched, looking out at the stars through the command center's main viewport. Somewhere out there, other humans might be floating through space, lost and alone, waiting to be found. Or maybe they were already out there, living among aliens, hiding what they were to fit in. Janet, Maya said, I want you to start scanning for other human genetic signatures. So, if there are more of us out here, they shouldn't have to go through what I did. And if we find them? Janet asked. Maya smiled, the expression carrying 15 years of love, acceptance, and the hard-won knowledge that being different didn't mean being dangerous. Then we bring them home, she said simply. And we teach them that being human isn't something to be afraid of. She paused, then added with a grin that had become famous across 17 star systems besides, imagine what the galaxy will do when they realize there might be more of us out there. Grunt grunted approvingly from his corner. Commander Zephyr made a sound that might have been nervous laughter. Dr. Bubbles began bouncing with renewed excitement, and Janet's hologram flickered with what could only be described as anticipatory glee. Maya Stardust, formerly the galaxy's most unwanted human and currently its most effective problem solver, settled back into her chair and began planning her next adventure. After all, the galaxy was a big place, and somewhere out there her family might be getting bigger. The universe, she reflected, was about to get a lot more interesting.